Hopefully by now you've had an opportunity to look ahead and review some of the tools that we're going to offer in this section for you to consider using at this point to refine your efforts to identify those areas that you and your practice team will see as the best places that you can work toward creating substantial improvements in care. We know there are a lot of areas to look for. And in this short video, what we're going to do is to try to spend some time as a supplement to the written information in this section, walk through some of the tools, give you some pointers, and to help you identify how you might take this next step. The main thing that we really want to emphasize as you think about this part of the curriculum is that with this two-step model, this stage of quality improvement is probably the most important. And it's important because what you do now in finding the right targets and the right measures and the right opportunities to create change will have a significant impact on your potential success as you look forward. So what we want to tell you is take your time, work through each step in the foundation for success. You will create a good list of indicators that you can use in the plan, do, check, act cycles in the next part of the model, and you will see some great successes. Later on in this module, we're actually going to give you an example using waiting times in the clinic. And why did we pick that? Well, if you think about it, from the time a patient checks in until the time he or she sees the patient, there are a lot of opportunities there for things to go wrong. And as a result, delays, mistakes, etc., can create problems in the care process that lowers the overall quality, and that will show up in your customer satisfaction or patient satisfaction surveys. So what we've done in this section is we've given you the tools which represent different ways that you can use the data that you're going to collect in developing the right targets with measures that will produce the change you're looking for. First, customer or patient surveys. Why is that important? Well, if you think about the whole clinical care process, what is it all about? It's about what do we do to our patients? How do we document potential things that can have a negative impact on waiting times and also how they have an impact on the quality? Why are surveys a good resource? They are the voice of your patients, and as such, they will tell you how waiting in their clinic has an impact on the quality of care that they see in their visit. So customer surveys provide you a great tool to collect data and compile a broader range of patient-focused quality indicators. The next one that we're going to provide you some information on is flow charting. Flow charting is basically the process of drawing a picture of what happens to the patient as he or she moves through the process. You know, they're going in one step here, off here perhaps, delays, come back over here, and by the time that they finally see the physician, they may be in the clinic for a long period of time. So what flowcharting does is it provides you a good outline, a picture if you will, and it will give you a clear sense of where there are some potential obstacles. Quite often in the quality improvement process, it is important to understand what factors of the many areas you could study are having the greatest impact. In other words, not all of them are going to have the same. And the tool that we use in that regard is called the Pareto diagram. Pareto, you may recall, was an Italian economist, and he said that basically what happens is in society, if you sort of look at things. The vast majority, that is 80% in his case, of wealth is distributed in 20% of the population. If you take that same concept and put it into a clinical setting, it says probably 20% of the factors in your clinic are having the biggest impact on the quality of care. So if we can identify those, then we don't waste a lot of time looking at other things. Now let's take a look at another approach to potential target areas. We will begin with the assumption that we really don't know what problems we have in our practice, and we need a good way to develop a potential list of study points. We suggest you use a wide open brainstorming session with your team. We've described it in this section. Take a good look at it. There's a reference that will send you out on the internet on how to do it in a stepwise process. Why is brainstorming important? Well, first, with brainstorming, you acknowledge and reinforce that your team probably knows more about why there are delays in your clinical process, but unfortunately have never had an opportunity to suggest them. So brainstorming is a way of unlocking, or another way of putting it is unleashing the creative forces to identify what's going on in your clinic that will help you uncover areas that you and your staff may not have previously considered. It's also a great way to create build-in to the buy-in, into the quality improvement process. It can be a very strong motivating force for your team. Next, we suggest that you take a look at using the following notion. If you think about your clinic, there are things that are done quite a bit. Those are those high volume areas. Some are high risk, meaning that by their very nature there are inherent risks to the patient's care that if we don't do them well, they're going to undermine the value of the quality of the care. And the last area is what we'll call problem prone. And what we mean by that is experience just says, regardless of how many times we do these things, there is the potential for problems associated with this particular procedure. If you and your team can come up with one or two indicators in each of these areas, you will probably feel pretty good about having covered most everything in your clinic that you should be concerned about. In this QI curriculum, we also want to emphasize the importance of recognizing the interdependency between clinical practice and management process. These are things that happen in both areas that inadvertently will affect the other. So what happens in the clinical setting may also have an impact on the management side of the process, and vice versa. When we start thinking about how those things can occur, we better understand that interaction, and that will produce an opportunity to find some great quality indicators that you can use to evaluate your care. Look at that, think about it, and we highly recommend that you take a look at those. The last QI data organizing tool we're introducing in this part of the curriculum is something called the fishbone diagram. And basically all it is takes a measure of something, we'll call it Y, breaks it out into various arms, if you will, which takes data and says, you know, we're going to put everything under the category A here, we're going to put B here, C here, and D there. And when we add them all up, it will give us, again, sort of like flowcharting, but instead of movement, it says cause and effect. So The fishbone diagram is another very important tool in the QI process. No one tool answers all your questions. No one tool solves all the problems. But when you look at these and you think about what you're trying to do, in this particular case, think carefully about how these tools can help you. Now, once you've reached this point, we want you to make sure at each step in the process, go back and reflect back on previous steps, because what you want coming from targets of improvement all the way down to implementing change or affecting change is a clear alignment so that the cause and effect process works. As you complete each step, ask yourself, have we done the best in finding those indicators that will best improve the quality of care? If the answer is yes, you're ready to continue on the journey forward. The work in your team will do now in this part of the process will have dividends not only in the short term, but years to come. And your patients will like it too. Best wishes, and we'll get back to you in the next part of the curriculum.